Welcome to the Lovecars on the Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff, Needell and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to Lovecars on the Grid, your global motorsport podcast roundup. We have a look back at the weekend of motorsport from all over the world, including the title decided in MotoGP and Aussie Supercars, actually. There was mayhem in Macau. It rained. It didn't go down very well. It's always mayhem anyway, but with the rain it was even worse. Tiff was driving. Well, we'll come into what he was driving because there's a whole story there. We want to tell you a lot more about why we were in the Middle East and in Japan as well. But first, let's go to the news because there's quite a bit going on, actually. There's bits and pieces going on in Formula One, but there's a lot of people leaving and really unexpected and quite quickly. I'm not sure what's happening there. Have you got any ideas?
No, none at all. Lots of big gossip and stuff, but we will come to Damon leading Sky is the latest one. But going back over Formula One, because we had these huge things, because the F1 director was the first big thing, Neil Wittich suddenly said, I'm not doing the last 3 races of the year. Boom.
But that's so weird. Why would you not?
Well,
why would you do
knows.
it now? Why wouldn't you do it in the summer break or at the end of the year? There's something going on.
Well, there was a lot of pressure in Brazil, wasn't there? Because Red Bull were complaining they should have red flagged that free practice 1, 2, 3 or Q1, 2 or 3 that Verstappen didn't get through, did the Q2 or Q3. So there might be intention there. I think sometimes a lot of the people above, when we talk about Damon Hill leaving Sky in a minute, that they pressure you to make a decision politically correct or that they want. And I think people that are very honest officials and doing an honest job, especially if they follow the footsteps of Michael, a certain Mr. Massey, they might not like being pressured and might decide I'm out of here because, it's just not. These are all complete speculation by me.
I don't think any of them are dishonest. Just to clarify my point, I don't think anyone's dishonest. I think they made mistakes. Michael Massey obviously made the biggest mistake of them all, but I don't think it's through dishonesty.
They're being too honest, I was saying, too honest to themselves. They're making their decision as the race director. That's my job. And then you feel somewhere there's people talking in his ear saying, well, change that, do that. That's what Massey was pressured massively,
he was.
When he cracked under the pressure of all the teams shouting at him. But just last October, 2 others left at the FIA. Who else was it? The Director of Communications in October left, Luke Skipper, and the Secretary General of Mobility left, Jacob Bangstad. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 people left FIA. And of course, the weirdest one, but I presume that's just the guy who wants to retire, the CEO of Liberty. Again, leaving in the middle of a motor. I know Liberty does lots of other things that I know nothing about. But he opted not to renew his contract. So the Liberty CEO went. The F1 director's gone.
I would doubt that's linked at all to the whole F1
but
situation.
It's just the image you get that the life, that the world underneath Mohammed bin Sulayman isn't happy. You just get that feeling.
He doesn't give me any warm and fuzzy feeling whatsoever. None whatsoever. No, he doesn't. I would love to see someone else. I don't even know who. But even a Damon Hill type person, which we'll come on to now.
Damon's gone. Damon just thinks, a wonderful 13 years. Again, another announcement before the season's over. So another weird time to announce. Maybe was he ever going to go to any of the last 3 races? I don't know. I mean, this is all speculation, of course. But he criticised Verstappen big time. And this is what I mean about rocking the boat. They like to keep everybody inside the bubble playing to the same tune a lot.
He did not criticise big time. He gave an opinion which most of us shared. It wasn't big. That wasn't a big criticism. It was just a small opinion.
I think Max found it very critical. And of course, we lost Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert was one of the few to speak out a bit more about AD21. And Johnny was another one that left Sky. Well, I thought most people quite loved little Johnny. I don't know why. So he went. And I fear that, Damon has been told he's not allowed to give his own opinion. And we're going back to AD21, the world. So I always remember at the time we criticised Sky, again, sitting on the fence a bit. I remember particularly, I can't remember the exact words, but Martin was sort of very serious and sort of, I don't want to go into it, I can't comment, we don't know the full facts. So they just avoided making their own individual opinions. When you've got an expert analyst, whether it's football, cricket, or motorsport, they're there because you want to hear their opinion of things going on. So you just got a feeling that people are just, censored almost, and maybe Damon's had enough, or maybe I'm completely making all of that up.
You think that Damon left on his own accord as opposed to being pushed?
Or in between the two, again, it's always those things. We won't say bad things about you if you don't bad things about us, isn't it? Whenever people get sacked or pushed out, it's always the agreement is, take your payoff money and don't. Who knows? It's a strange time. It's a strange time to suddenly say I'm not doing Formula One anymore.
What you're telling me is that we're going to have to wait for members meeting number 27 or 28 next year to find out the truth when you race with him at Goodwood. Is it 27 or 28 members meetings?
Something like that. Goodwood Revivals, 26, 25. It's a funny team there because Danica Patrick hasn't gone down very well on Twitter. I'm not that fussed, but I don't really watch all that Phil and bump. So I'm not really a person with much of opinion. I know Davidson and Karun Chanduk do a great analyst. They're brilliant.
Amazing.
You got Crofty a bit shouty.
I like Crofty. He's so knowledgeable. I like Crofty. Harry Benjamin, we rate a lot. And Davidson for me is the standout. Ted's getting a bit boring for me.
Danica.
I could tell she's there. She's a very good racer, and she's female, and she's
Naomi String. I'm a Naomi Sheaf fan. I'm quite impressed with her. She's not actually got the driving experience to give some of the opinions she gives because she only raced a few, time in Formula 4s or something. But she's very positive thinking. So
hang on, some of the best commentators in the world aren't drivers.
But she's a commenter. But when she comments,
you're right. Yeah, commenters and commentator.
Comment on driving, but Naomi, I don't quite think she has as a presenter. She's very professional indeed. I'm not sure whether Bernie Collins adds that much for me. Are you won over by the strategy element?
I'm not a fan of how high on the pedestal they've put Bernie Collins. She looks a lovely lady and clearly very knowledgeable, but it doesn't do it for me.
Doesn't add. Whereas Damon Hill adds massively to me. Having him there. He does.
And Brundle, we've missed Brundle, which is exceptional.
So anyway, funny things happening everywhere in Formula One.
And the outside of the UK, not outside of the UK, in the Netherlands, in Benelux, they don't like the team because they're too biased against Max. So apparently,
I didn't realise. I think you told me last week that when Max did that big thing, no British journalists here. After the press conference, what a funny thing. Apparently, you told me there were no Dutch journalists.
There was no Dutch. There's a handful of people. There's a skeleton of people, which is typical because everybody's going home and there's nothing new to get there because they've already got their stuff out in the pens. So, but I like Max for saying these sort of things because there's type of crap that I would come out with. Making stupid little digs.
Well, that's the thing we do like about Max. When he was very honest about Las Vegas. He didn't want to be there. We do like him saying what he thinks, so it's a bit of fun. What else came up? Red Bull still talks of Colapinto at Red Bull. I think that's way too soon for him. So Isaac Hadjar, the French Formula 2 winner, he's now saying, I think I'm still in the frame for Red Bull. Who knows what's happening there with Arby's and Checo?
See, who am I to say this? Well, I am. I'm going to tell you my opinion. I don't like Hadjar because of how he is on the radio, but he's an exceptional driver. But he's a young kid.
How is he on the radio? Where have you picked this up from?
We've mentioned this on our podcast before. He went mad at his engineers. He went mad. Don't talk to me. Spoiled little kid. But then they are kids and they're young. Yep. And if I was that age, being thrust cameras and microphones and stuff in my face, I'm bad enough now. My goodness, what would I have been like at that age? So we've got to cut them a bit of slack.
One thing we all wanted, which we thought might happen this year after the testing, was a rookie race. And everyone was saying, okay, why not? Let's have a rookie race after the last, the big test, which of course the FAO, we can't afford it, it's too much money. They've now said they're going to look at it again. They're interested in it and they're going to look at it in 2025. We might get one in 2026. Why do they take so long? It's a brilliant idea, that. Last day of testing, bung in all the rookies, have a 20-lap race. If they crash the car, it's the end of the season.
Speaking of car crashes in Formula One, how about this? This is some stat here. Pierre Gasly is the only person this year to have the only full-time Formula One driver in history, not just this year, ever. He has not cost his team a single solitary penny in crashes. He hasn't even had a puncture this year. So nothing, no damage whatsoever, which I find quite hard to believe, actually. He's had nothing.
Are you aware of my opinion of Crofty statistics that go right over the top of my head that I don't really give a toss about?
Don't mention Formula One crashes then.
Alpine confirmed they're going to have Mercedes engines in 2026, which I could only believe they want to sell the team.
And
I can only
gearboxes? And gearboxes?
Yeah, the whole thing. So the Alpine won't have their Renault engines in if they're Renault. Alpine's a separate company, or is it or not? And they finally decided, after something we said about 2 years ago, after much deliberation, they're going to have cooler kits. Good old cooling kits, which we've had in Group C and IndyCar for the last 20 or 30 years. All the fuss about, our drivers are too hot. The minimum weight of the car will go up by the weight of the cooling kit, so they all have to use them, and it's going to be a standardised kit. What did that take, a year and a half for them to work that one out? Flipping out. There was Qatar last year, wasn't it, when they all
That's Qatar. Singapore's always a hot one, but Qatar,
so
I think, tipped them over the edge.
That was all the Formula One news. Plenty going on as we head for Vegas, baby.
Yes. So we kind of did something quite exciting over the last couple of weeks. I went to Japan, and Tiff came out last week and met me in Abu Dhabi with crew, and we were with the A2RL, the Autonomous Racing League. And if you're anything like us, when you talk about autonomous racing, we've thought the same. Certainly at the beginning, we were like, "Oh, who wants to watch
what,
that?"
You've got me kidding! What a mess! But I mean, it was good. We've been invited to make this video for Amazon Prime and stuff, haven't we? And so they invited us out there, and took you to Japan to look at that, their latest demonstration run, which again failed because the car spun off, didn't it, and crashed.
Cold tires.
I join you in. To actually invite me to drive the driverless car. I mean, the driver full car. Danny Kvyat's car. He's been always doing in the first race last year. Abu Dhabi raced against it. Well, earlier this year, just to show the difference. And so they agreed to stick me in a Superformula car, which is like the fastest thing outside of a Grand Prix car at my tender age of slightly over 60. Well, quite a lot over 60. So they tried, and it was. But to go there and see the number of people in that garage, working, the geeks or programmers, and how serious and how they believe they're going to get this right. And although I still can't really believe it, but I've seen the enthusiasm down there in Abu Dhabi. You were there. Well, you went out to Japan first, then we joined, as you said. And
it's a lot. It's a lot more than just enthusiasm, because I'm enthusiastic, but I'm a failure. But these guys are a lot more than enthusiastic amateurs. These guys are proper. Everything they do is proper, and you're right. They believe they're going to meet their AI, their artificial intelligence car, with all its computers and cameras, is going to be a human being within the next sort of 18 months or so. And well, they're only about 10 seconds short at the moment. They got within 10 seconds this year at Yas Marina, but it's very flat and very open. Then Suzuka's a completely different ball game. We'll tell you more about that when we see you. But how was it? More to the point, I guess, is from your perspective, how was it driving the car? I mean, can you see what those computers are up against?
Well, yes, this was the thing. You'll see when you see the story. That they put me in. I hadn't driven Abu Dhabi circuit. We're only in half of it. We're on the top half, which goes round the hotel, the twiddly bit, the south track. So I'm stuck in this. I hadn't driven a ground effect car or slicks for about 20 years since I drove the Williams Grand Prix car back in 2005 when that race against Vicky Butler Henderson in the M5. So I'm stuck in this amazing machine, and off I go. And I mean, it was just a wonderful experience. But I only had about a dozen laps or so, and it was just
a lot more. You had a lot more than a dozen.
I couldn't count because I was going round and round. But it's how quick everything comes up. I mean, that is the biggest thing when you're on board the car. And that's what I was saying, about how a computer could. I'm in one corner, I'm in the next corner, or another corner, I'm down the straight and I'm braking again. The computer's got to stay with that speed. The most interesting one was I was on the second straight for the South Circuit, so that second long straight down to that new U-bend instead of a chicane.
And then you've got a slight turn at the end of the braking zone.
Okay, but it's coming up to these braking zones. That's what really amazed about those Grand Prix drivers. They brake at 150, and then they'll brake at 145 or something. And I from the 100, 200 to 300 ball, they were one blur to me. I'm rushing up at about 190 miles an hour. All I could see was three boards. I thought I'd brake somewhere before all of them, but I got down to 100 metres at the end. I got down to 100
Tiff,
meters.
I have to say, watching it, you did yourself proud. Really, truly did yourself proud, because And don't forget as well, people at home watching, he's not just driving his car fast and, he's up there with his times, but delivering lines at the same time.
Talking.
So there's a lot to think about. You've got to remember your script and your lines. So,
but my neck was going bad. But my neck, after about 8 laps, the neck couldn't hold up against the Chief. But what I did realize now, because they made these cars with 6 foot driving, they've got a certain size of cockpits now. But the luxury of a modern single-seater driver, because your legs go down the 2 lines that have got cushions each side and a cushion in the middle. So you're just beautifully cushioned. Because, of course, you've only got left foot on the brake, which, of course, I never use. So that was a bit of a shock for me to make my left leg press hard enough to make the carbon brakes work. Then your right leg does their throttles. And inside the tight-looking cockpit with a nice headrest, so you can lean on that. That's cushion. That was quite nice. It's a huge bowl, so my elbows were completely free. I raced Formula One or Group C. My whole world was bruised knees and elbows because everything I drove, I was banging knees on bulkheads, elbows on the chassis. So it's a very, very civilized cockpit. So that element, which is why physically it's not quite so grueling as it was in the old days, having to change gear and use clutch pedals and heel and toe and all that stuff. But of course, it's the G-force that really knackers you out.
And your neck as well, because you didn't. You just use the standard seat with a bit of foam instead of having. Because in a race car, you get your seat fitted and things like that.
It's still stiff.
Good,
but no,
good,
so it's fascinating. So for computer boffins to make the car do what I was doing is just it's just outstanding. So I look forward to progress. They really think. By next April, they're going to have 15 cars out there. I think they won't race 15. It'll be time trials or maybe head-to-head. So I'm not quite sure what race format they're going for. I'm now fascinated. I laughed at them, but, you mock these people. But
people mock SpaceX, Tiff.
Yes,
SpaceX, when it was blowing up, when they're sending them up and they're always going to land, it's going to land back on Earth. And then a month ago, it lands back on the same platform with a giant pair of chopsticks. And it's just transformed space travel.
Yeah.
And so what they're doing is not about to race. This is they know they're not going to sell bums on the seats just to come and watch the race. It's all about how they're going to use this technology in our lives, in our everyday lives with autonomous trucks and cars and all sorts of things. So it's very, very clever. I look forward to sharing that with you early part of next year, I guess it will come out, which is good. Well done for that. I was very, very proud of you, I have to say.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Dad. Thank you.
You did very well. So let's go to some title deciding. It was kind of in the bag anyway. But let's go to
MotoGP. Down in Barcelona, of course, not to Valencia because sadly it was a race for survival and stuff. They renamed it because they had to move to Barcelona. But Jorge Martin, as expected, you only had to finish about 5th or 6th or 7th in the final in the Grand Prix. So he won the championship. Fantastic for him. A private satellite team, the Pramac team, beating the factory Ducati team, MotoGP. So it's all quite big headline stuff. Bagnaia, the outgoing champion, the factory driver, he won both the sprint and the Grand Prix, but that wasn't enough because, as I said, Jorge had to just cruise in. Marc Marquez got second in the Grand Prix to finish third in the championship. It was a fairly professional Grand Prix, but the only real entertainment was Alex Espargaro's retiring, 35, Aprilia factory driver, where Jorge Martin is going next year. But he's a Spanish, a big mate of Jorge Martin. So he got up to about third, decided to ride a shotgun to his mate Jorge, and just blocked and chopped. Enea Bastianini and Alex Marquez were both pretty pissed off with him at the end of the race. He just acted as a tail gunner to his mate. So, so Jorge won the MotoGP. Oyogura had already won Moto2. And the race was won by Aaron Canet. He was pretty happy. So he was this hugely, tattooed guy that's sort of been pushed aside by MotoGP. He's been raced for many years, but this year's come on really strong. And he won. That was a really close race, sort of 4 neck and neck, but not much overtaking. Although the rookie champion, this Brazilian guy, Diego Moreira, dived past world champion Agura on the last corner of the last lap to take third place and get his first podium of the year. It's funny how statistics, we're all raving about the Moto3 champions every time, but he's had 2 years in Moto3, only had 1 win in Moto3. And then it depends what team we're with. As same in single seaters, you can never be sure.
You're right there, Crofty. You're telling me off for giving me stats. You're Mr. Stat Man when it comes to MotoGP.
I'm just talking about this Brazilian rookie champion. Where he's come from. A little bit of background. It's not a stat. And these, of course, are the guys next year, because Ogura's going to Grand Prix MotoGP. But Canet and Jake Dixon, who's staying on, unfortunately was fourth on the grid, got second on the outside down to turn one, and then went off on the runoff road, came back in 14th, and then crashed 2 corners later, taking 2 people out with him. So not Jake's best finale. But of course, Jake Dixon and Ogura and Moreira, which I'll bring him into the story, is who will be facing David Alonso, who had a record-breaking 17th win or something. I don't know how many it was. Another fantastic Moto3 race, which David Alonso won again, having dropped from first to sixth and then come back up and took the lead. So big interest for Moto2 next year. Those 2 sort of veterans, one rookie and then Alonso. Scott Ogden had a last race with Michael Leverty, our British team, qualified 16th, finished 7th. Average Scott, who's going to another team next year. And Eddie O'Shea, the other Brit, was 21st. So
you see, there was a few shots fired in the paddock afterwards. Few shenanigans going on. There was Davide Tardozzi, the head of Ducati. He made a public comment actually about well, if Aprilia want to buy the number 1, we'll get it back next year anyway. So
fighting talk.
And I think the crew carried him, not him. I think they carried the rider to Aprilia as well. Through the paddock as well, I think. But yeah,
they took Jorge Martin.
Yeah,
carried him away from Ducati. Pramac. So all good. Moto, as always, entertaining. Aussie Supercars.
So Aussie Supercars. Throughout this season, it's been what's been dominating? Has it been a Chevy?
Red Bull Camaros, no Red Bull. The Fords finally got sort of equality there. Mustangs finally won some races after like a year and a half of this new generation of supercars. So it became much a more level season towards the end. But by then, these 2 Red Bull Chevy boys had got 70 points. Nobody's going to catch them. Will Brown came second in the first race to his teammate Brock Feeney to take the title. And then in race 2 on the Sunday, he got punted at turn 1 and went down to 23rd and came through to win it. So quite a good way to end being champion when you get knocked off in the last race and still win it. So you have the Red Bull Chevy Camaros, the winners down in Adelaide, mate. And the other racing going on was Macau, which of course I raced at many times and got very fond memories of. This the greatest racing track in the world. So
the same street circuit?
Yeah, just awesome. But it's down to Formula Regional now they're racing. And this has been the problem over the years because obviously Formula 2 and Formula 3 got almost too fast with the ground effect. Because in my day, we had Formula 1 drivers and it was Formula Pacific or what was Formula Atlantic in America. It's American top teams, but they're all like 28-year-old professionals. And it was a fantastic race, but it's become down and down. The first Formula 3 was when Senna won it. I was actually in that race as well. In 1980, I think that was. And last year
you raced against Senna.
I didn't actually race against him. I was in the same race as him.
No. You need to explain now. So explain. You were in the same race.
I was doing Group C. I was doing Group C in Japan sports cars, but the Group C team said we've got a couple of Formula 3 entries for Macau. Do you want to drive one of them? So of course, having been battled for the lead of Macau before a gearbox problem, still remember that one. Should have won that year. Delighted to go back, but of course, it's Formula 3, so going down many steps from Group C. And Ayrton Senna was the British champion, and went out and he won the race quite easily. And I was battling to get into the top 10, if I remember rightly.
So you weren't in the race. You weren't.
Yes, I was.
So you did race against him.
Well, I've twisted the word race against. You sort of think then you've got to come alongside him a couple of times to race against someone.
So you race with him. You were in the same race as him.
Yeah, I didn't see much of him.
Tiff, that's brilliant in itself that you were in the same as Senna. That's great.
Anyway, they've reduced this great Grand Prix, which used to have, as I said, experience, down to now Formula Regional cars. And it was chaos. And it's a reflection in many ways because it was rain. To be fair to the kids, it was horrible conditions, wet and dry. But I mean, the first qualified with 5 red flags in Q1, 7 red flags in Q2. So those kids were only getting about 2 laps, and the pressure of getting out of the pit lane
one
first.
turn. I don't know what the turn was. What's the turn where it's like a concertina effect. You get one person.
Yeah, turn 1, Lisboa, yeah. But there's so many corners like that. But it reflected to me a little bit about the problem with bringing these kids up on these tracks in runoff areas. Because they grow up, if they make a mistake, they just go over the curb and come back on again, no damage at all. And so they tend to push to the limit very quickly. They don't slowly build up kids now. They just go out of the pits, turn 1. If they go off the track, it doesn't matter. You learn to then bring yourself backwards. But yeah, they were just wrecking these cars because they were trying to make lap times. And the Grand Prix itself, I mean, the winner was Ugo Uguchukwu, who's this McLaren signed up kid who's brought money, obviously, to go to McLaren to be a McLaren protege.
Why, obviously? Why is he obviously bought money if he's winning races?
Because he wasn't winning races when he went to McLaren. He was like a karting champion. A karting champion. He was a bit like a Red Bull rookie, So
allegedly, possibly.
I don't think McLaren headhunted him and brought him over, put it that way, from America. Of all the kids you could headhunt. And he's not done that much. I think he actually came over to do the British Formula 4. Yeah, he was third in British Formula 4, then second in Italian Formula 4 with Prema. But this last year, he's done Formula Regional with Prema, one of the top teams. We only finished 11th. So this suddenly coming out. He actually changed teams, interestingly, for Macau. So maybe Prema didn't have a seat for him. I don't know why. But he went for our race team. And he got on pole position. This sort of chaos of qualifying when nobody, you got a hot lap, a red flag comes out, then you get caught in traffic. And so the whole grid was a bit of a lottery. But from pole position, he then won this Grand Prix. And the Grand Prix ended up being about 6 2-lap races because someone kept on crashing and the pace car came out, the safety car came out. So it was a bit of a farce, really. Nobody really moved up the field by over. I think nearly half the field retired. I think 15 finished and 12 crashed. So it gets a bit silly when that's not a real race, is it? If they're not able to race, they should go for another age of driver to more experienced formula. I don't know. They all loved it. All a good time, party time, I'm sure, no doubt.
It's crazy.
Our Freddie Slater, he was so frustrated. He was just stuck in 4th place behind, and he just said, I want a podium or nothing, apparently. So he just went down the inside of the famous end of the main straight and braked so late he didn't make it. Apparently they get very little slipstream, he said. It's just a huge, it's almost like a mile long, the straight. It's a really long straight. But these cars now, the way they're designed with aero, they just don't give slipstream. So you can sit right behind someone, but then you've still got to outbrake them by car length to make an overtaking manoeuvre. So, yeah. So Ugu was the winner of the Grand Prix, but I don't know whether it proves they should change the form. But it's going to be, they call it the Formula Regional World Cup. The FIA love it because, of course, every region now does Formula Regional. There's a European one and a Japanese one and an Australian one. So anyway, there we go. But both Ugo and Freddie were there last year in Formula 4 cars, had a bit of an advantage because they knew the track. A lot of these kids were going there, having never been round Macau. And they're around this most
the simulators are so good now, though, Tiff.
You cannot simulate those blooming walls. Sadly, the motorbike Grand Prix, which is equal to two Formula thing, they rained that off. They didn't even run it. So it was a shame. A very damp Macau. With Ugo, the only one going home really happy, I guess. But Macau's a wonderful race, a wonderful track, the best. Fabulous.
So other than Senna, who else did you race in the same race with?
Riccardo Patrese I had a good battle with. That's why I was nearly a March. I was in a 1976 Formula Atlantic March, and he was in the latest 1979 car. But I qualified about 5th, I think. And I got ahead of him at the start. I was running 3rd overall, ahead of Riccardo Patrese, Grand Prix driver in his factory March. So that was a pretty... Otherwise, those big Americans, they were Kogan. Kogan did a bit of Grand Prix. Coogan. It was much more the Aussies that came over from down under, so the Australian champions, the American champions.
So Mansell, you've raced against him very, very famously.
Yeah. Rupert Keegan, Roop was out there. Rupert Keegan, Jeff Lees, my old mate Jeff Lees. So. But
why do you want to talk about the Mansell thing?
Which Mansell thing? He wasn't in Macau.
Mansell. No, generally, just
Generally,
yes, not
generally, I've raced against Prost, Senna, Mansell, Rosberg, Fittipaldi, Watson. I've raced against them all.
Brundle.
Yeah, I knocked him off in a BMW race. Cheeky git trying to get around the outside of me. A cheeky little git.
Hill.
I showed him at Hill. Yeah, I was a teammate with him. I beat him. We were in a pair of Saab 900 turbos at Mallory Park.
It's been three corners at Mallory Park.
I still beat Damon Hill in a Saab 900 turbo.
Longest corner in the UK, isn't it, or something like that?
Quite possibly.
Who else?
And all of them, because I've been at Le Mans, with all of them. So all of them.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Get any autographs?
No.
What's going on next week?
Well, Vegas, baby. What I haven't read about Vegas this year, whether they've done anything about the surface. Do you remember last year that was the big thing? There was no grip. And that's what made it a really good race, because they're all slithering around with no grip. Now, whether they've surfaced it, I haven't read anything about whether they changed the grip or whether the tyres are Pirelli going out with even super soft tyres.
The thing I remember about last year at Vegas was empty grandstands, cheesed off people, very cold people. It got very, very chilly in the evening. That's what I remember about Vegas. Who won last year? Probably Max.
Yeah, Max, didn't he? And then the World Rally Championship concludes in Japan, where again it should be quite an easy run for Thierry Neuville to finally get his first World Championship, as long as he doesn't do something stupid.
They don't do much rallying in Japan, do they?
It's become a World Rally for the last 4 or 5 years, I think. They joined him. Ott Tanak, of course, his teammate in Hyundai is the only one that can beat him, and he won't give up. And of course, rallying, you've only make a mistake on an apex and find a concrete pillar, and you're missing your front left. But of course, you can score points every day now, so you can wreck it on day one and come back on day two and wreck it on day two.
But I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing, because there's nothing worse than if you have a slightly unusual thing on the edge on day one.
If you think it's a good thing, right, for next year, you have to be able to understand the point system for World Rally.
No chance.
You just said you think it's a good thing.
Well, it's a good thing to get points. If you
crash on day one, you crash.
Really? What? So that's it? Your weekend's done?
Yes. Because especially when they have that, at the end of the day, they have that special stage, the time one, don't they? Super special, when you can score points. Yeah. So you could have a completely fresh rebuilt car, just come back on day three, go around slowly for the first two, for the whole day stages, and then turn up at the super special.
I don't have much of an argument, actually.
Nothing to lose, but be the star.
But you don't want people to go home, do you? You don't want Sebastian Ogier to turn up.
If you change the regulations, if you made the cars cheaper, like WRC2, make WRC2 the World Championship, you'd then have 30 people trying to win the rally, not 6.
Yeah.
I mean, now these factory cars, there are 6 people that start a world rally with a realistic chance of winning it.
What's going on next year with the World Rally cars, the hybrids?
They're dropping the turbo. They find the turbo was causing because so often, not a turbo, the hybrid. There's so many drivers who finish the stage, I had no hybrid on that stage, I had no hybrid. And then the poor manufacturers of hybrid are terrified of one of these things catching fire, burning to pieces. They've introduced a new G form. If you hit a G, your G meter says a 30 G thump when you've had a bit of it. There's one rally where they had an artificial jump on the special stage. And they're all kicking the G meters. They're right, you've got to retire for the day. We've got to give you a new battery because we can't let you risk running that battery again. And rebuilding these batteries was, I don't know, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of pounds to rebuild your hybrid system. That is just too complex, especially when you're sending a thing to the rough hole. So no hybrid. Great.
Okay, so Thierry Neuville should be crowned champion next week, and
Max as well.
Max Verstappen could be as well next week.
Well, you're the points expert. Come on, what is it? I've no idea. Do you know? I don't know. Where does he have to finish if Lando wins? I don't know. No, I was going to work that out. I can't be bothered. I'm sure you could all find it, Autosport magazine or on the internet.
Anything else next week?
No, that's 2 things.
Good. Look forward to seeing you then.
I've got to start doing the leaves. The leaves are full. I've got a lot of trees in the ground. I'll be leaf collecting. Southampton face Liverpool at home on Sunday. That won't be very good, I don't think. Anyway, Las Vegas, baby. We'll all be out watching Vegas.
See you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.